In this example, we're going to look at the language and notation of exponents. Represent the given exponential expressions in the 4 ways indicated. So I challenge you as you read through these in your homework or whatever you're working on to really try to use this language and think of these different representations. They'll help you get a better grasp of what exponents represent. So expanded form, so we'd read this as 6 squared or 6 to the second power. Expanded form means writing it as the product of its factors, 2 factors of 6. So 6 times 6. Next we'll write the word name, and we said that it was 6. We can say squared when we have the second power, we have the special name squared. Or you can say to the second power. Now let's look at factor language. Okay? So remember, this means 2 factors of 6. 2 factors of 6. And it's important to really start to think of exponential expressions as multiplication. It's tempting, a lot of times students may multiply 6 times 2 because remember you're supposed to multiply, but that's not what this means. This means 2 factors of 6 or 6 times 6. And our math equation would be 6 squared equals, well, if we multiply 6 times 6, we get 36. Let's look at the next one. Now here we have negative 6 squared, or we could think of this as the opposite of 6 squared. And it's probably better to think of it as an opposite because we're not squaring negative 6 here. This is not 2 factors of negative 6. We'll see how we write that later using parentheses. So what this means is we have a negative sign or an opposite sign and then 2 factors of 6. So 6 times 6. So the squared sign is not applying to this negative or opposite side. Okay. For word name, let's write the opposite of 6 squared. In factor language, we'd write the opposite of 2 factors of 6. So really remembering that that symbol is going to be an opposite. The opposite of 2 factors of 6. And now let's look at our math equation. Well, using our expanded form, write negative 6 times 6. So the opposite of 2 factors of 6 is the opposite of 6 times 6, which is 36. Let's look at the next one. Here we have 5 to the third power, or 5 cubed. In expanded form, this means multiplying 5 by itself 3 times, or 3 factors of 5. Our word name is 5 cubed, or 5 raised to the third power. So we're more likely to say 5 cubed because it's shorter than 5 raised to the third power. In factor language, we would write 3 factors of 5. So we're multiplying 5 by itself 3 times. We have 3 factors of 5. And our math equation is that 5 to the third power, well, 5 times 5 is 25, and if we multiply by 5 again, you can check this using multiplication algorithms or your calculator would give us 125. Let's look at the next example. This is negative 5 raised to the third power. Now notice the negative is inside parentheses, so this exponent is applying to the negative 5. We're not thinking of this as the opposite of 5 cubed. So in expanded form, we would write negative 5 multiplied by itself 3 times. 3 factors of negative 5. And again, it's all because the cubed is outside of the parentheses. Our word name would be negative 5 cubed. In factor language, it's 3 factors of negative 5. 3 factors of negative 5. And our math equation is negative 5 to the third power, or cubed, equals, well, notice from the expanded form, we know 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. We found that up here. And a negative times a negative is positive, and then this result would be positive. This is negative, so a positive times a negative is negative. So we have negative 125. Now let's look at one more that will relate to the last two. Here, notice this sign, the negative, is not in parentheses, so it is not being cubed. So we're going to think of this as an opposite. So the opposite of 5 cubed instead of negative 5 cubed. So in expanded form, the opposite stays out front, and we're just writing 3 factors of 5. So 5 times 5 times 5. The opposite of 3 factors of 5. And that is our word name. The opposite of 5 cubed, or the opposite of 5 to the third. And now our factor language will be the opposite of 3 factors of 5. Now to write our math equation, we'll write the original. The opposite of 5 cubed equals, now looking at the expanded form, we'd multiply 3 factors of 5, which we know is 125. And then to determine the sign of the result, we see there's just one negative and 2 positives, so our result would be negative.